jobs, stimulate investment, as well as to unlock inclusive growth across borders. The president was addressing the inaugural 2025 African Green Hydrogen Summit in Cape Town in the Western Cape Province. The host of the summit, the Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, says it is important for the continent to resolve its energy crisis, as it is electricity that is going to power the production of hydrogen. Here is South Africa's President, Cyril Ramaphosa, addressing the summit.
This summit, many of you may recall, started off in
Cyril Ramaphosa addressing the inaugural 2025 African Green Hydrogen Summit.
Africa, voici.
Exactly 15 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. We did throw forward to this last week the fact that SAFM, Ashraf Garda's host of the National Pulse, and myself, Thami Ngubeni, host of African Business on Channel Africa, will be giving a very special focus on the G20 summit. And this week we focus on the U20, which is the Urban 20 Sherpa meeting, and the African Mayors Assembly, which is currently taking place in South Africa's capital, Tshwane. It is an event that aims to forge collaborative strategies to accelerate inclusive climate action, sustainable urban development, and resilient public services among G20 countries. It certainly is a momentous occasion for the continent. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf.
Good afternoon to you, Tommy. And it seems like I'm seeing you every second day because, of course, 2 days ago you were the MC at the book launch regarding Zibusiso Mkwanasis, which was quite fascinating. But let's get on to the important issue for now. We do know this is the first time the Urban 20 convenes on the African continent. That's very historic because of South Africa's connection to G20, right? So the executive mayor of Tshwane, that's Nasipar Moy, says that South Africa, and hosting the U20, in this case here, Sherpa meeting, and U meaning the Urban 20 Sherpa meeting and the African Mayors Assembly, will certainly from their perspective ensure that Africa's voice is not only present but actively involved in shaping the G20 agenda at the highest level. So that's a big affirmation, isn't it?
It certainly is. And what we've seen are the executive mayors of the city of Johannesburg, Mayor Dada Morero, saying that the U20 meeting will be a testament to how cities, including the city of Johannesburg itself, are not just implementing global policy, but are shaping it. And I must say, Ashraf, one of the challenges in hosting an event of this magnitude is all the spotlight is on you. And we both know that, you know, the cities are both facing their own challenges, but it certainly is an opportunity to shine a spotlight on how changes can be implemented, you know, for global sustainability and global improvement of the world's largest cities.
Well, it's a big question, and of course, the question really is how much clout do they have? One thing is putting it on the agenda, the other is can they deliver through that, right? So let's discuss this further. We're joined on the line by the member of the mayoral committee, so MMC, responsible for housing and human settlements at the city of Tshwane, and that's Aaron Maluleke. Much appreciate your time, MMC.
Good afternoon, and thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Right, so let's get to this. I mean, you're hosting the Urban 20 Sherpa meeting and the African Mayors Assembly, and we know all of this in the build-up to the actual G20 proper, right? So here's the question I made earlier on. One thing is talking about it, but ensuring it delivers. How do you plan on using this event, not just to shift the narrative, but to ensure that the narrative is actually implemented?
We have had the privilege this morning to take what happened in Rio and to have an opportunity to host this important gathering of mayors here in the city of Tshwane that will galvanize different views that will take resolutions to the G20 meeting, as it was stated by your presenter there earlier on. Then we're looking forward to accommodate our African peers into this roundtable forum to discuss issues of sustainability, issues of climate change, issues of infrastructure financing, so that when the sovereign states meet at the G20, Africa has a common agenda, South Africa has a common agenda with regard to how we then respond to the issues of climate that we've seen in the East Coast, issues of infrastructure on metros where we are struggling to finance infrastructure around water provision, issues around energy security. We are looking to ensuring that these conversations land at the table of sovereign states that are going to meet here in South Africa, led by President Ramaphosa.
You mentioned something quite important there, MMC, regarding the challenges that you are facing, including the strain on urban infrastructure. There are challenges of cities that are overcrowded. There's rapid urbanization as well, which in often cases outpaces the planning and the infrastructure investment. Talk to us about how that ties in with President Cyril Ramaphosa's declaration of the year 2025 as a year for service delivery. How does that align with the key objectives of the Urban 20 and also the type of challenges that the world's biggest cities are facing?
I think it was correct of President Ramaphosa to reflect on the importance of cities as engines of economic growth. But you can't drive economy when you are not organized in terms of infrastructure that you need to build up to attract investment. Therefore, it's important that we then work together as Urban 20 and C40 cities to speak in one voice on how we galvanize support from the global south, looking at how we then deal with solid waste, how we deal with water availability, making sure that we then enforce seamless trade relations that we should be having. We should make sure that the African countries, they can trade between themselves, because we are almost 1.3 billion in Africa, and our participation in Europe it's a little bit minute. What we need to do is to stimulate growth in manufacturing, what we produce. It should happen in terms of intra-trade relations. But as cities, we must make sure that whatever that we manufacture gets to land in other African countries. Therefore, it's important what President Ramaphosa and his government have formulated and put together in their reflections to look at how cities can play this important role in contributing to the GDP, but also creating jobs, but making sure that our economies growth and we make a difference and make impact in looking into the future.
Now, you know what? One of the things, I mean, and we touched on it, Sally Thami mentioned it too, that you have this mass in terms of not just globalization, but centralization, people moving to cities, right? So that's the good news. Cities become much larger, maybe more productive, but they come with a whole lots of baggage. And one of them would be, overcrowding and then potentially unemployment, but other issues as well, like pollution, lack of infrastructure, quality of life could well be seen to diminish. People sort of chasing gold and they don't find it. So here's the question. What then is the plan when we have this urbanization? What is the plan to mitigate against these are unplanned consequences, but they happen anyway? What's the plan for that?
You will remember that part of the intentions of responding to urbanization is obviously dealing with carbon emissions, densification, transport, mobility around these urban spaces. But then how do you plan to make sure that the people that come into cities, as much as they want opportunities, they don't land on what we in Brazil we know as favelas, in South Africa it's known as informal settlements. How then do you make sure that your planning in municipalities respond to those challenges? Because where people crowd, they end up on wetland, floodlines. We need that for our ecosystem. What then that we need to do as municipalities is how then do we respond in ensuring that as much as Statistics South Africa says 10,000 people are coming into Gauteng almost every week. What we need to do is then make sure that our response in terms of housing, in terms of our road infrastructure, respond to issues of sustainability, because many people that are living in backyard dwellers, for example, end up disposing of their waste in corners, in land spaces that need to be protected. Our planning must speak to in-migration growth that we have. And that's what needs to go into our IDPs, into our budgeting, so that we then are able to respond to these challenges. People must get all these infrastructure services, but they must also get transport to get to work. They can't be in the CBD spaces but reside outside in the periphery where it's a little bit far from their working places.
MMC, when we look at the migration policies of many of the world's biggest countries and the influx of immigrants into those cities, and I'm thinking now specifically around Europe, even the United States, and Trump trying to reverse that somewhat, and even here in South Africa, managing cities, building cities, growing cities is no longer business as usual because of this migration and the migration that's happening really intensely. What are the conversations to be had around managing migration and around the inequality in access to, and I think you mentioned this earlier on, access to services, access to healthcare, access to infrastructure that will inevitably arise because of the disparities in earning potential and also in class?
You will know and understand that part of our socio-economic challenges obviously give a rise to dissenting voices that migrants are taking our jobs. But you still have a challenge of inland migration, that people come to Gauteng for job opportunities. I think it was mentioned by your colleague that people are coming to Gauteng for gold opportunities. But when they arrive here, they don't find gold. And they want to scrap anything that they find. Therefore, our policies that we have, if we create opportunities, they should also look at our socio-economic challenges that we're having, so that the young people, biggest cohort that South Africa released, that they are unemployed. We should create jobs, and those jobs are going to come when we've got manufacturing, we've got the e-commerce space where young people, South Africans, are participating. And if you have migrations, whether you're dealing with your porous borders, but people that want opportunities, they're going to do whatever that they want to do to get to South Africa because of these opportunities are here. And people are going to go to Europe because of the one opportunities. A pushback from every government to also speak to how you deal with your citizens, how then you deal with citizens' grievances, so that when you accommodate migrants that come to participate in the economy, it doesn't seem, it's not viewed as you are taking my job. You are taking our space. Because government is pleased with policy making, law making. We need to make sure that we cushion citizens so that there's no grievance and a pushback, and it causes conflict in every society that we have. Therefore, we have a responsibility when we sit around the table on how then do we deal with how migrants come into cities. Because if you look at America, it's been built by many migrants. Mexicans cross the border, they want opportunities, but President Trump believes that they should be moved back because I think sometimes it's political posturing, more than looking at the socio-economic challenges that people are facing in different countries.
And as we wrap up this afternoon, Ashraf, I know you do have a keen interest as well as far as smart cities are concerned.
I certainly do, and I think, how smart are smart cities, and if they're not so smart, what happens to them? And, maybe the word smart is not stylish as we would think about it, but it's an important point, and I'm glad that we're raising these type of issues every single week as part of this on-air collaboration, certainly from Channel Africa and ourselves, and here on SAFM. Thami?
No, certainly. And MMC, as we let you go, we were just talking about the smart cities, and that we know that creating these is another key objective for the G20 countries. Could you highlight for us what strides have been made in achieving this?
We are looking at the invention of AI connectivity and making sure that the people get to be in those platforms, the usage of data. It's inventions that would assist us in how to prevent water losses, how you manage planning. But those things, you realize them when you've got the basics in terms of connectivity. If you can build broadband, if you can get connectivity, if you can have such infrastructure, it will work for us. It will work for us to have seamless banking systems. People no longer want to visit the banks. They want to have their money, cashless cities, because of it's safe to do so with the high level of crimes. But that connectivity needs infrastructure investment, and all of us, we believe that we have an opportunity to look at how we can work with a private sector, a government, so that we can be able to have a connectivity, but also take advantage of data and other inventions that are around the issues of 5G, 5IR. It's important that we use technology to deal with some of complex issues that we have as local government that have assembled here today.
MMC, we thank you very much for your time this afternoon as we take a look at the Urban 20 Sherpa meeting and the African Mayors Assembly currently taking place in the city of Tshwane. We thank you very much, sir, for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's MMC responsible for housing and human settlements at the city of Tshwane, Aaron Maluleka, speaking to us on the line there. Ashraf, very interesting, when he speaks about the responsibility that cities have in ensuring that smart cities become a reality. He speaks about cashless cities. He speaks about a seamless banking system. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, we are there representing Africa, and are we able to really put the African agenda on the table, considering the fact that our infrastructural challenges and issues of access are very different to a lot of the other countries that form part of the G20?
Well, clearly, and your point is valid, that there's such the diversity of cities within the African continent, even within South Africa, just so wide that when we talk about smart cities in one community, there could be someone listening to us here, and we have this crossover between Channel Africa and SFM, someone listening to us from, one of the rural communities, like, what are you talking about? But therefore lies the challenge of how to get it right. And I say this at a time when just about every city in South Africa is grappling, and I'm talking of the bigger cities, are grappling with trying to deliver, this better life for all. So Thami, good thing to think about. We'll maybe pick up on that, next week, same time, from around 4:15 to 4:30, as part of this collaboration in the build-up to G20 between Channel Africa and us here at SFM. Much appreciate your time. Let's get straight to the news headlines. Just go on.
That's Ashraf Garda there signing off on the SFM side, and on Channel Africa. It's gone exactly 16:30 on Central African time. Let's take a look at what the indicators are looking like with Chanduko Ligeke.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa, championing Africa.
$6.10. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 543. In Egypt, the dollar is at 49 Egyptian pound 47. Tunisia 2 dinar 94. Algeria 130 dinar 627. In Morocco, the dollar will cost you 9 dirham 10. In Angola, the dollar is at 911 kwanza 951, while the Congolese franc is at 2,853 to the US dollar. Looking at commodities, gold is at $3,388. Platinum at $1,265 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $68.91 a barrel. That is all from me. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email, newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Budi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Thami. A very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. We'll start with this story, right? So international media reports are revealing staggering new details of Florian Wirtz's imminent transfer to Liverpool, having disclosed just how the bonuses as well as the add-ons in the contract will comfortably see $173 million agreement. So Arne Slot showed patience in the last transfer window when first stepping into the Anfield hot seat, only adding Federico Chiesa as a concrete addition to the squad he inherited from Jurgen Klopp. So ranked as one of the best German stars of his generation, striking a deal has not been easy, though hours of negotiation have finally been seen, the deadlock broken, and the two clubs having agreeing on a package that will likely obliterate the numbers records. So football analyst Rory Jennings had this to say about the potential signing of Florian Wirtz to Liverpool during this upcoming transfer season.
Yes, of course it is. I think it's money well spent. It's obviously a lot of money, but if you work out how much it's going to cost Liverpool, let's pretend that it goes really well. Just live in the world where this goes exactly as Liverpool hope it will go. Florian Wirtz goes on to win title after title, or the odd European Cup here and there over the next decade, and features heavily for Liverpool for the next 10 years. You divide the 125 million quid by 10, by 12, whatever he ends up staying at Liverpool, suddenly looks like money well spent. It looks like a bargain if it all goes to plan.
Meanwhile, Jennings claims should Liverpool sign Wirtz, they would have won this transfer window.
And whatever you say, whatever happens now, from now to the end of the transfer window, on this show we're going to discuss transfers left, right and centre. This is a Transfer Insiders. There will not be a bigger transfer this summer than this one. A better player will not move this window than Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, but look.
Back home now, tickets will go on sale for the Springboks' defence of the Rugby Championship crown when the two test matches against Australia in August via Ticketmaster on the 13th of June. That's, of course, tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central African time. So tickets are priced from $30 for the Wallaby test match at the Emirates Airline Park in Johannesburg. This is on the 16th of August, as well as the DHL Stadium in Cape Town on the 23rd of August for the clash against Argentina at the Kings Park Stadium in Durban in the penultimate round of the competition on the 27th of September. The cheapest ticket there is $14.5. Supporters are urged to act fast to avoid disappointment and to be on the virtual queue on Ticketmaster at 9 a.m. Central African time tomorrow morning. Earlier on today, Wimbledon having announced an increase in its prize money for this year's championships, $72.59 million, a 7% increase on 2024 and double what they offered a decade ago, with the All England loan having confirmed the news earlier on today. So the singles champions will receive $5.3 million each, an 11.1% increase on the prize money Carlos Alcaraz as well as Barbora Krejcikova took home just last year. Now the singles players who exit the first round will receive about $89,000, which is a 10% increase on last year. The men's as well as the women's doubles winners will earn about $700,000 if they reach the pinnacle on Wimbledon turf, while the mixed doubles winners will pick up $155,000 each. That also marks a 4% as well as a 3% increase respectively. Meanwhile, players knocked out in the first round of the singles action, or not the singles but the doubles action of the Wimbledon title, will receive about $88,000, a figure that has increased by about 10%, the same amount that the singles players will also be receiving should they be knocked out in the earlier rounds of the fourth or rather the third Grand Slam tournament of the year. And that's a wrap from the Sports Desk at the summer. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Stay ahead with Africa in
It is exactly 4:39 Central African time as we turn our focus now to the inaugural Mining in Motion Summit 2025. That was an event that aimed to address responsible mining, sustainability, and the formalization of artisanal and small-scale mining across the African continent. The summit was hosted by Ashanti Green Initiative, AGI, a foundation dedicated to promoting environmental restoration, advocating for climate-related issues, and fostering community development in Ghana and the globe. For more on this, we joined on the line by the Managing Director of the Ashanti Green Initiative, Prince Oneba Kwakudua. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to Africa in Business. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And I hope you are keeping well too. Perhaps let's get straight into it with an understanding of who you are as AGI. Who are you, Ashanti Green Initiative? And maybe if you could tell us about some of the projects that you've been involved in.
Okay, sure. Ashanti Green Initiative is a Ghanaian-based NGO. We're focused on promoting sustainable development in mining communities. We focus on areas like environmental restoration, responsible sourcing governance, human capacity development. Ashanti Green Initiative is owned by the Ashanti royal family of Ghana, and I, as the Prince of the Ashanti Kingdom, serve as its managing director. So that's just a very brief overview of what we do. Yeah.
And as far as the Mining in Motion Summit, why exactly was that set up? What are your objectives? What would you like to achieve from the summit?
The idea for us was to create a policy-led, African-owned platform that brings together governments, industry leaders, and development partners. Of course, this year the key focus on artisanal and small-scale mining. We do intend to continue to have a very broad discussion on ASM, just because of how big of an industry ASM is. I mean, you put that into perspective. You take Ghana, for example. We're the largest gold producers in the entire African continent, and 52% of our output is artisanal or small-scale mined. I think that nowadays our artisanal miners have gone past rudimentary methods of mining, like using shovels, pickaxes. It's become a more advanced sector, which involves a lot of machinery. So it's imperative that there is some sort of a regulation and standards that artisanal miners follow, because the amount of degradation that can be caused in the wake of these mining operations, it can bring about devastating effects, as well as that. Also, we also can speak about the fact that the output from a lot of the artisanal small-scale miners is below par. We're not just here to talk about environmental restoration alone, but how artisanal small-scale miners can use better technology to improve their mining output. You have things like, in Ghana, for instance, you have where artisanal miners process their ores, called a kitchen, is what we call it in Ghana, and most of the output there is about 40%. So if you have an ore, the methods of extraction that they use now can only take about 40% of the ore. But there's more advanced technology and machinery that is able to extract up to 97, 98% of the ore. And these are some of the things that we're looking to advocate for. It goes without saying.
And very much on that note, talk to us about some of the strategies and some of the solutions you have put in place or that you put forward for those that you address this summit to, and specifically communities that have been affected by this mining degradation and some extensive mining activity. How available are the solutions to them? How user-friendly are the solutions to the communities that form part of the summit, or that the summit is supposed to address?
I think that in terms of the availability of the solutions, I would say it's there. I don't know how well marketed that they are being done, and I think that is something that myself and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources in Ghana are working quite closely on marketing these types of technology to the artisanal small-scale miners. So I would say that a lot of the work AGI is focused on doing now is also on advocacy, also on marketing these equipment. And one of the achievements that we're looking to have post Mining in Motion is obviously the introduction of more advanced machinery and technology into the artisanal small scale mining sector. You have a government-owned entity by the name Gold Board, which is heavily investing in improving technology for artisanal small scale miners. You have the Minerals Commission, which is introducing technology such as drones, machinery tracking to ensure that miners are operating within their boundaries, to ensure that there is no crisscrossing. Also, one thing that we're looking at introducing is processing units, processing facilities to improve the output of the resources that artisanal miners are producing.
As Ghana, you will know that over the years you have had some serious issues around illegal mining. What is being done to foster collaborations between ASM and established big mining companies?
I think there's a very keen desire between the two to have some sort of alignment. So during the Mining in Motion Summit, one of the biggest panels that we had was a panel on the relationship between large scale and small scale mining companies, where we were looking at how we can improve the relationship between the two. I think that one thing that my ministry is quite keen on is some sort of knowledge sharing platform between the large scale and small scale mining companies. It could even lead all the way up to technology sharing, where some advanced processing units or advanced drilling units that the large scale mining companies have that they're probably not using anymore, they can be passed down to artisanal small scale miners to improve their output.
And how do you hope to extend beyond the borders of Ghana and really impact mining across the African continent? And how far does the summit go in actually achieving that or doing that?
I think that one of the key focuses for us during Mining in Motion was to highlight the fact that ASM or ASM related issues are not synonymous to Ghana alone. And to highlight the fact that we as Africans most of the time face similar issues. So when you have the chance and you can look at the Mining in Motion program, you would see that most of the conversations were general. They were not based on Ghana alone. The panels were very Africa focused. And it is our hope, it is our dream, it is our prayer that we can continue to push with the work that we're doing, advance Mining in Motion into a larger platform where Africans can collaborate on knowledge sharing platforms. Because at the end of the day, we at AGI are very cognizant of the fact that until the solution is rolled out in a way that it can be regionally adopted, and by regionally I mean across the African continent, our work is incomplete. So we hope that the next iterations of Mining in Motion, which is something that we look to push for, would include more African governments. This year we had over 15 African governments participating in the summit. So we hope that next year we would have an even larger contingent where we can start to share knowledge. One achievement that we are very proud of is that after Mining in Motion, a lot of governments that attended were they fell in love with the Gold Board agenda. They fell in love with what the Gold Board represents, and they're looking to implement similar strategies. So hopefully next time, when another Mining in Motion Summit comes up, it could probably be Ghana learning from another African country, or other African countries learning from us.
And as we wrap up this afternoon, just your answer to that question pretty much speaks to what your theme is this year. It's all around sustainable mining, local growth, but really about leveraging resources for global impact. Talk to us about that theme and how it has played itself out.
So the theme is in two folds. I like to break it up into two. Sustainable mining in the sense that we want to extract our resources in the most significant way possible, but we don't want to do it at the detriment of us, of our environment, because at the end of the day, the opportunity cost will put us in a negative bracket, because whatever we take out of the ground, we're going to spend the same money to fix what we took out. And by local growth, if the communities that these resources are being found in are not benefiting, how are we going to have a chain reaction that sees the people in the community growing if all the resources are being sent to one specific place, and the people in the communities are left at a disadvantage. There would be no chain effects there. You would not see growth in the communities, and the communities will continue to remain the way they are. And sometimes it even leads to a bit of desperation on behalf of the communities, where they then start to have a ripple. A ripple effect starts to materialize, where you see the communities starting to engage in activities like illegal mining just because they feel neglected.
That's true. We'll leave it at that for this afternoon. We thank you so much for joining us today, and wish you all the best. We certainly will be keeping an eye out for the Mining in Motion Summits as it continues to grow, and actually quite keen to see how it morphs and how next year's take will be looking like. We thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you too.
Thank you. That is the Managing Director of the Ashanti Green Initiative, Prince Oeneba Kwakudua, taking us to exactly 10 minutes to 5 p.m. Central African Time. Do stay with us. This is Africa in Business. Week's commentary slot by Standard Bank. We're focusing on the topic on Uganda's agricultural export transformation. East Africa represents one of the continent's most dynamic agricultural regions, with Uganda positioned as a key player in the East African community bloc of over 300 million people and a combined GDP of approximately $240 billion. However, intra-regional agricultural trade remains underutilized, with most countries still exporting raw commodities rather than value-added products to international markets. And we know that this is an Achilles heel for many of Africa's markets and African countries who are trying to change this, making sure that instead of exporting raw materials, let beneficiation happen on home soil. So let's focus on this afternoon as far as Uganda's agricultural export transformation is concerned. And for this conversation, we're joined by the head of business and commercial banking, Melissa Nyakwera, Stanbic Bank Uganda. Very good afternoon to you and welcome to Africa in Business. Perhaps let's start off by looking at Uganda's agricultural export transformation. Would you say that it's moving in the right pace, in the right direction? Has there been any progress towards the vision that you have for the sector? Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you so much, Crystal, and good afternoon to our listeners. I'm told there are also some viewers. Good afternoon to you all. This is Melissa Nyakwera from Uganda, Stanbic Uganda. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Crystal, to speak about Uganda. So in terms of regional integration, I would start off by saying that yes, the East Africa market is, first of all, very critical for us, as it opens up markets to various countries and allows us efficient allocation of resources. I mean, when you look at Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, DRC, they're efficient. It allows us, the country that is able to produce efficiently will do the production and is able to export to the other country. So it's important. In terms of agriculture ambition space, the interventions are really at all levels, from an increase in production level, value addition. We have government giving us conducive policies and incentives to attract investments, including tax exemptions, regulation of key sectors. If you look at our coffee exports, we have hit the $1.5 billion mark in terms of exports as of 2024, and that really continues to grow. But we've only been able to do that because of the interventions from a government perspective. There's also an increased pace in terms of the East Africa integration, and these are looking at really how they harmonize or how we harmonize our customs systems and infrastructure development. We're looking at railway, road infrastructure development. So yes, I would say the pace is picking up from both a production space and also from an East Africa markets intervention space.
Could you highlight perhaps some of the early success stories and persistent challenges in Uganda's agricultural transformation?
Okay, so in terms of persistent challenges, I would look at from an agriculture production perspective, it would really be around the fact that as a country, as a nation, we still, if you look at our levels of production or yield of production, it's still very low compared to the rest of the world. And that's simply because of the work or the intervention that we're still going through in terms of moving farming practices from rudimentary or small-scale farmer practices into commercial or large-scale farmer practices into products that is fully internationally accepted. So those are some of the challenges, but there is work ongoing in that space. And from a access to markets perspective, there's also work from a government perspective in terms of ensuring that there's broad access or access to markets for the farmers, given that the bulk of this production does happen up country. So there's also work in that space, but those are some of the challenges I would put forward from an agriculture production perspective for Uganda.
You mentioned how you want to move and how you are moving from small scale to a larger scale, commercial farming. And you mentioned Kenya a little bit earlier on. Could you perhaps just put that into context for us? What role does Kenya play in the region's logistics as well as financial hub?
Okay. So from a Kenya perspective, I mean, if we look at Uganda, Uganda is a landlocked country, but that's not to say it's not an advantage to us. It's a big advantage. It gives us access to so many neighboring countries. If we look at that access alone, it's 200 million plus people that we are able to supply foods to from Uganda perspective and outside of Uganda. So you'd be looking at Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, South Sudan, and all those we do supply the food. In terms of Kenya's importance, Kenya is important because Kenya is our major link to the rest of the world. It's the closest to the sea or ocean that we would look at. So when I talk about exports such as coffee, not only if we export, and we do export the bulk of that outside of East Africa, we then need to access the rest of the world through Kenya. So Kenya is an important trading partner for access to the international market, but it's also important to us in the sense that there's a huge opportunity in terms of them being consumers of quite a bulk of the food that we produce. We export quite a lot to Kenya. I would say dairy is one of those, sugar, grain. So Kenya is important.
And so as we wrap up this afternoon, perhaps let's take a look, and if you could highlight for us the role that Stanbic Bank plays in supporting agribusiness, in helping get access to markets for exports as well as access to financing.
So when I look at Stanbic Uganda, first of all, Stanbic Uganda is part of the Standard Bank Group. At Standard Bank, we've been in existence for over 150 years. In fact, what we say usually is that Africa is our home, we drive our growth. And when you come bring it home to Uganda is our home, we drive our growth. So we have presence in over 20 countries. So that alone gives us access to several markets on the continent, but we have access to outside the continent. From a Uganda perspective, we are able to provide financing, trade finance solutions, that's working capital, the risk management in terms of mitigating risks such as fraud, non-payment and delivery issues that come with international payments. And so that's important for us. From an assets perspective, we've been able to extend over $200 million worth of lending to the sector. So we are supporting of the players, be it from the smallholder farmers, to the aggregators, to the processors and exporters, as well as the manufacturers. What do we offer in addition to that is an understanding of these businesses, of their sizes, providing critical solutions as they start, manage and grow, and advisory as well.
So you really seem to
relationship managers.
My apologies, Melissa. I was saying you just really seem to be there right from the beginning and throughout the life cycle of the various businesses. We thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I know there's so much more to try and unpack, and I really hope we'll have another opportunity to do that really soon. But thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you. That's Melissa Nyakwera. She is Head of Business and Commercial Banking at Stanbic Bank Uganda. Well, that's how we come to the end of Africa in Business for today, as it is fast approaching 5 p.m. Central African time. From myself, Thami Ngubeni, and the team, over now to the French desk for more programming on Channel Africa. Give yourself a splendid evening further. Goodbye.
En marge de la conférence des Nations Unies sur l'océan 2025, les dirigeants africains plaident pour la restauration urgente des fonds marins et l'équité technologique. Des réactions contrastées en Afrique du Sud après l'annonce de la tenue d'un dialogue national par le président Cyril Ramaphosa. Et enfin, pour les grands titres de ce soir, au Gabon, des déguerpissements et la destruction des habitations dans certains quartiers de Libreville soulèvent plusieurs interrogations. Bonjour à tous et merci de vous connecter sur notre site internet www.channelafrica.co.za pour suivre Vue d'Afrique, le magazine d'actualité en ligne, en langue française, en ligne, oui, sur Canal Afrique qui émet depuis Johannesburg en Afrique du Sud. Et Tando est à la technique. Voici tout de suite le bulletin d'information que nous présente Joël Kabongo. Bonjour Kabongo.
Bonjour Joël.